jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Jazzy jazz hands. And
Jazz
I didn't say anything inappropriate.
No, because not yet anyway.
No, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. Thank you for editing or keeping those.
It
It's
makes
fine.
great They're fine. You haven't said anything egregious yet.
No, I'm okay.
Yes, you are. You are more than okay. You are.
You're too kind.
Before we gush about each other for longer than we should have, hi all you BC WrestleMod nerds out there, and welcome to another rendition of the Friday Night Faction Review, your weekly WWE Smackdown review team. It is 2/3 of the regular normal review team here. I am Mikey, also known as El Jefe around the BC WrestlePod parts. I almost messed up my own intro, which is fantastic. I am the man with half the plan and the face that somewhat runs the place. I can't copyright infringement on AJ Styles because he will beat me up. Have you seen how swole he looks lately?
Yeah, he's still pretty jacked. He's
insane.
Yeah, he's on those juicy vitamins, I'm pretty sure.
Allegedly. And of course, joining me this week, you know him, you love him. We had a blast last week after being gone for a couple of weeks, but the Professor, welcome, my friend. I am happy to have you. I'm kind of happy that it's a duo. Obviously Minnie is not here, but I'm kind of happy that the duo is back together where this kind of all started.
Yeah, we had a string where it was a good 6-7 months of just you and I running our mouths, and then the Minnie came, and Minnie didn't ruin it. Minnie made it different, but it's been a while. Minnie, for those of you who don't know, just got abducted by his family, so Minnie will come back eventually. We're not exactly sure. Sent us the frantic text message, hey, I've been usurped. And it's like, oh, okay, bye. Smackdown, like we talk about every week, you sort of watch it like a soap opera, and then you take it in accordingly. This one didn't feel as soap opera. This one kicked back towards a wrestling show, which was almost refreshing. And Mikey and I were talking before we started, where it seems like WWE in general, but particularly Smackdown, does this one take a step backward, 2 steps forward thing. And every now and then they just sort of blow up a Smackdown, and we all go, what in the hell? Where are we going? Whereas this week was sort of, based on what happened on Raw, sort of like, let's tie this up in a bow, and we're going towards Clash in the Castle. Like, this kind of makes sense. That doesn't mean I'm not going to second guess you, but it's sort of like, I know where we're going, which is rare in WWE world, where we know where we're going. That doesn't always happen.
It is really interesting, especially that, at least this week, this was the last SmackDown in the U.S., because next week's SmackDown is taking place all the way in Glasgow, which is
so
crazy.
Good.
I am super excited for Clash at the Castle. I think it's going to be a fun review between the WWE boys, but let's just jump into it. After we get our intro bumper and a recap of everything that went down last week, we kick off SmackDown this week with the Bloodline in the ring, or coming down to the ring, and it is the official, and I put this in air quotes, baptism Tanga Loa into the Bloodline.
How cool would that have been to have been an actual baptism river, like, boosh? Oh, what a missed opportunity. Come on.
Seriously. But Paul Heyman is kind of running the majority of this in-ring segment as they officially welcome Tanga Loa into the Bloodline. And Paul Heyman tries to get out of Dodge after he's done with his quote-unquote priestly duties.
It's so funny.
But then the weekday, the knockoff version of the weekend, Solo Sikoa.
We're calling him the weekday. That's kind of perfect.
We're going to continue this trend, and until he changes it up, he is now known as the weekday.
That's so funny.
Not even Wish, the Temu version.
Solo the weekday. The weekday Sikoa.
But Solo stops Paul Heyman in his tracks and basically says, where are you going? Paul Heyman, blink twice if you need help.
So now Paul Heyman's kind of gone from ski team to ski coach. Like, he's sort of stuck now. He's not fawning over them. There's this sort of obvious fear of the criminals you've brought into the bloodline. Fine. What's interesting is they're still as hyper violent as Jimmy and Jay were at the peak of this. And for some reason, these two just were... I'm warming up to it. I had a hard time initially being like, Paul Heyman, you're scared of these two? You've been around murderers your whole life. You created the chance that they have to bleep out of wrestling forever. Like, that came from you. So I get the act. I get it. And of course, he's a good actor and he sells this really well. I normally hate these things. This one kind of worked. It was tidy. It was leading into a match. We had a reason to do this. The internet loves this because this is a throwback to God and some of the other naming and recognition things and history of the family and stuff like that. We keep invoking Haku, which the announcers are just teasing those of us who know who that is and what that means. But Haku's damn near 70 and is probably not getting in the ring. But there's a part of me that's like, oh, please just jump in there and bite off someone's nose. Like, come on. How amazing would that be? You give me Haku and Rikishi in some sort of Civil War faction. But I can dream. So yeah, I thought this was fun. I thought this was great. It tells me where we're going. I like that.
Well, exactly, because the way this ended is we set up pretty much our main event of the evening. Because once again, Kevin Owens is like, we're going to fight right now, and I don't care who I have to go through. Storms the ring. Numbers is a thing. But then the Street Profits come out to even the odds. So at this point after this, we figure, okay, we are told that we're going to get a one-on-one match. But then that all changes because as soon as this segment is over, we cut backstage where Paul Heyman is like trying to sneak away. So Sikoa literally yells, "Where are you going?" Like,
so
Paul
funny.
Heyman's like, I took care of it. This is like, nah, this ain't gonna be a one-on-one match. You better go back to Nick Aldis' office and make this a 6-man, because if not, we gonna have our own match in the locker room. Basically threatened to beat up Paul Heyman if he doesn't do what it does. I was like, and there it is. There we go. Paul Heyman is like now in this weird relationship. Again, blink twice if you need help.
Yeah, right. I think it's fun. I think it works. I think it's different for the bloodline. We haven't seen this type of bloodline, and we were calling for this, I don't know, for 8 months. Like, give me something different, pivot, change, do something. And with Roman not there, because Roman's doing a movie somewhere, right? That was the thing, is he's booked a movie or two, and he's just not available.
Or the other thing, well, I think that's The Rock. I think Roman's just taking some time off.
Sure.
But according to the reports, supposedly he should be coming back around July to set up something for SummerSlam.
Sure. That would make sense.
Right.
I like that we're doing something different with the bloodline. I want to see Solo get more comfortable on the mic and get talking more, which they're doing. They're starting to run that, which is great. Bloodline is still selling. Like, everyone loves this. And now I'm intrigued. And we're already talking about a Bloodline Civil War. Like, everyone who's a pundit and critic is going like, hey, the Bloodline Civil War, it's coming. And of course, they're gonna milk that and make it a year from now. But it's coming. That'll be fun.
I'm excited to see where the summer goes with the Bloodline, because we are building to something big at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And we are going to see what that entails out to be. But we finally get into our first match of the evening. This is just a standard tag team match where we have our WWE Women's Champions, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, taking on, pretty much this is a rematch from King and Queen of the Ring, because they're taking on Candace LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Again, this was a solid match. Candace and Indy are so underutilized, but I love them getting screen time. Bianca Belair consistently continues to be awesome. Jade is also really good, but I think there was one point in this match where I think she went for a backbreaker and almost missed the knee. I'm wondering, because it looked like Candace almost landed on the back of her head.
That's what I was trying to find. There was 1 or 2 spots in here, and I'm trying to find them right now, where I was like, oh, please don't die. But it was still worked. I think that might have been one of them. There's another one after commercial break. These commercial break things, I don't want to talk about the production of these. I'm going to say this now, and then I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's a tall order to have your wrestlers book the match. You book them in the match. You get them running the spots. You get them to work together. You get them performing live, and you have to have them hit specific moves and spots so you can cut to commercial from there. So you're almost cutting this match into 2 to 3 pieces, and that's a really tall order, and not all the wrestlers are finessing that and finding it. And that's super hard, because when it works, and it's like, oh wow, look at the production value. When you miss, and you've alienated some of the audience, right? Doing that commercial break thing.
And I don't know if it's because they're on Fox right now, so they have to go to commercial break, but as much as I hate it, I would rather have them do a picture-in-picture, as much as I hate picture-in-picture. But even then...
And picture-in-picture is tricky, too, because the wrestlers know that they're in picture-in-picture, so they're not doing as much. They know they got 60 seconds until they're back at it. Not that this fell victim to it, but there's other matches I've seen the last few weeks where it's sort of like, hey, we got to hit this spot and the camera's going to be right there and it's going to be perfect. And there's someone calling the... Anyway, that's all I want to talk about that. Jade is still the Terminator, comes in, shows up Rex's house, looks beautiful, does an amazing job here. I like where we're going with the tag titles. I hope that we get a really awesome climax and build to something. The rumor is, and I'm sure you've heard this too, is that there will be a breaking up of these two, that we'll get the Bianca versus Jade eventually, which kind of makes me sad because they're doing really cool work here, and we're looking at the tag division, which my heart goes to Andrew, who's the tag team nerd of Biconics, who any focus on tag team wrestling, women's tag team wrestling is great. So part of me is like, but I don't want to pull that away abruptly like that. So we'll see. Fun match. Again, it's not like I have notes or anything, but I watched it. Like, this was great.
It definitely was a great match. So Jade and Bianca pick up the victory. As they are celebrated in the ring, though, we get two different attacks from two different teams. Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark and Alba Fire and Isla Dawn come in to attack not only Bianca and Jade, but once they're kind of momentarily indisposed, they begin to fight each other, which then has Bianca and Jade come in to clear house. This has been a reoccurring thing on Monday Night Raw. These three teams also went at it. And so, fast forwarding a little bit, Bianca and Jade end up coming out of Nick Aldis' office, and WWE, the website, has officially confirmed it. We are getting a triple threat for the WWE Women's Championship at Clash of the Castle. So Jade and Bianca will be defending their titles against Zoe and Shayna, as well as defending them against Alba and Isla. So, of course, I was like, yep, get the Scottish girls on the pay-per-view. Which I'm not going to be upset about.
No, it's a great who's who of Scotland's finest there, which is fantastic when you look at that. But tune into that later for our picks.
Yes.
I think it's fine. I think it's great. Like I just said, like we care about women's tag right now. Like, we got a little bit of a storyline. We sort of kind of know where we're going. That's great.
It is. And, I was worried once Bianca and Jade won these titles because they were lost in a little bit, but it seems that we're building them to something. And I hope that you are correct, Professor. And I kind of agree with you. I want to see where the climax is going to happen.
Yeah. I hope they don't bait and switch us too soon. Like, which you could argue, and kind of my opinion, I think they're doing the Grayson Waller and Austin Theory one a little too soon. I think I'd like to see that cook a little bit longer, so I hope they let this one simmer and let us enjoy it long enough to where you get real heat for breaking them apart. And then you could let that run for a few years of, are they heel with each other, face with each other? Where did this come from? Are they helping each other now? Are they this and this now? I'm intrigued. And then this happened.
Yeah, so this is the first of 3 segments we got with Cody Rhodes. Let me just set this up real quick. Because I was in the middle of texting someone, so I was watching it, SmackDown Live. I was in the middle of replying to a text message, and I'm not looking at the screen. I was like, okay, I'll look up once I'm done. As I'm texting somebody, I just hear, this is the first one, and this is not the only time this happens. I just hear very feral grunting, and I slowly look at my television screen. I was just like, well, at first I was like, if I look up, am I about to see something that I shouldn't? Hold on. All right, hang on. I look and I was like, okay, good. Like, we dodged that bullet. I was just like, SmackDown has been getting kind of like pushing to the edge, especially last week. Michin's outfit, I was like, whoa. All right.
We discussed such things last week.
Cody Rhodes is backstage. He's grunting. He's angry. He's literally doing the why I auto walk. I was like, Cody, we got to figure something else out.
So that's what I was gonna kind of say is
this is very cartoony.
Cody has been the face, a consistent face for so long, that the genuine I'm angry, intimidated thing, he can do it. But if he gets stuck in that wait for a cue place, it's very much that thing, and it's.
Like,
it's cute. It's cute. It's sort of, 12-year-old. Oh, you angry. You're so mad. Look at you. The only part I believed was in the third segment when the camera followed him. That's when I was like, okay, we're active. We're doing something that helps you as the performer / actor. I get it. These first 2 spots he had, I'm not saying they fell flat, but there was a little bit of like he was stuck and I don't know what to do with my arms. I don't know what to do with my face. I was like, okay,
I was like,
you're
Cody, calm down. But
just a little,
yeah. So Cody's doing all this. Nick Aldis walks up to him and is like, look, AJ is about to arrive, but I need you to not do anything crazy. And I was just like, this is Cody Rhodes. Of course something's about to go down. Something always goes down. But we leave Cody to his own devices because after this is where we get, as you mentioned earlier, Professor, we have another match, Johnny Gargano versus Grayson Waller, but I'm going to pull an Andrew and go into the order that they actually showed us. So we have Diet Shawn Michaels coming out with Johnny Gargano because, again, we are still playing up this DX DIY thing, which is kind of nuts to me. So Diet Shawn Michaels
call him Diet Shawn. Oh man!
Look, someone like Tommaso Ciampa has the Triple H going on. So
yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, I like Johnny, and I do love Johnny, and Tommaso too. But this whole DX kind of invoking though is just like
I think it's because it's stuck in the middle, right?
Yeah.
If they hinted just a little less, or if they went all in and just said, "Hey, we are whatever you want to be, DX something," fine, then go full whatever. They're kind of stuck in the middle. Johnny Gargano dresses like he's in a pit crew for a NASCAR, which is fine, but
we got to figure
it doesn't really match the scheme of the thing. I don't know. I'm not.
We're having an identity crisis, but Johnny makes his entrance first. Then we cut to commercial. Then we come back, and Apollo Crews because Apollo Crews is supposed to have his match with Angel Garza tonight. But then, of course, WWE does the WWE thing where Legado del Fantasma attack Apollo Crews, and then he has to go escorted to the medical office to go checked out, which means that this match is not going to be happening tonight. So as Nick Aldis is trying to figure out what to do, Mr. L.A. Knight, comes into the picture and is still looking for Logan Paul, which is a good thing and a good question, L.A. Knight, because where is Logan? I know he's a part-time champ, but why is he not here? Nick Aldis is like, look, LA, Logan is not here. He's not going to be here tonight, so don't ask. So LA Knight's just like, well, okay, if he's not here, I'm going to go find him. And Nick Aldis tells it, don't go nowhere. Don't do anything. I already know how you are. And LA Knight's like, well, okay, well, since this match is not happening, let's figure something out. And who should come in to rep LA Knight but Carmelo Hayes, who does a better job of making sure that he says his lines.
A little more prepared, Carmelo Hayes, absolutely. A little more relaxed, Carmelo Hayes, which was good. A little bit more, hey, settle down. You don't know how to push this, Carmelo Hayes, which was nice.
Which ends up getting us, LA, and Carmelo made for tonight. I didn't hear what Carmelo said afterwards because the audience and the microphone, I was like, the leveling was not there. I missed what Carmelo said at the end.
It did kind of cut off on that. LA Knight had a great Tetris joke in there because Logan Paul's not doing a Tetris tournament, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying not to have so much hate for people in my life. Not that he's in my life, but
let the hatred
let it consume you. Give in to the fear. That dude drives me nuts. This, not to go meta for anything, this was a 6-minute one shot with 3.5 different segments in it. If they Jay-Z'd that and did it in one take, my God, that was really smooth. So that's something of the Paul Levesque era, that type of cinematic pull and pivot stuff. Some of it's Attitude Era based. We used to have a lot of that a long time ago, and then they kind of cut to, let's make these segments again like in the 80s. That was really clean. Like production-wise, I was like, that was smooth. They knew their cues, they knew where to hit, they knew their marks. Damn. So I was impressed with that meta, look at me, TV production guy. On the whole, great promos. This was fun. I think if you're going to do soap opera, if you're going to try and irk away from the soap opera stuff, that's how you want to do it, right? You want it clean, scripted, but not too scripted. They're still being who they are. And we got a little bit of the violence. We got a little bit of wrestling. We got a little bit of drama. We didn't go full backstage, in amore. Like we're not in the back of an Olive Garden. We're not, always in the parking lot. You kind of had the workings of the show itself. And I enjoyed that.
I did too. I loved it so much. And we will talk about LA and Carmelo later in the evening. Then we cut back out to the ring. Johnny is in the ring. He is waiting. Grayson Waller's theme hits. And we get our match underway. I mean, let's just get into the big part that I want to talk about. I thought Johnny Gargano almost died during this match. That sliced bread looks scary.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it right now because I had a moment of, I'm really enjoying this. And now I'm afraid for your life. Like, I had a moment of like, it's somewhere in here where, yeah, right before the commercial. He goes up and over the ropes. Grace, I'm sorry, I'm watching it right now to remind myself of how painful this looked. Because he goes up, he doesn't get the full rotation at all. He comes down on his forehead. And if any of you are skateboarders from the 90s, he goes full scorpion.
It was
like
so bad. Scary.
And then holds his lower back. Which, if that's me selling the injury, that's one thing. If your lower back hurts because you tweaked that way, and he kind of looked like he was limping, like I genuinely thought like he tweaked something, and who knows? We'll find out from someone. That looked brutal.
Yeah, and I was just like, and not to say, because things are gonna happen. I've seen it before.
Sure.
Like last week when me and Adolfo covered Collision, because I was there live. It was really scary to see JD Drake have to roll out of the ring and the match stopped while we were there live because it looked like he broke a foot or broke his ankle or something. But luckily he was okay. He finished the match. He looked okay on the way out, but it's one of those moments just like it took me out of it. I was like, oh no, now I'm worried about your safety.
Sure. Not to talk about other promotions. I was in San Francisco when Powerhouse Hobbs was on the ladder that broke during their insane Lucha Brothers versus All of Us match. And we were like, oh, we're going to watch someone die. Like, there's no way. In 2 or 3 moments, we were like, oh, this is bad. And then Powerhouse Hobbs was smooth, saved it, carried it over. Stuff happens. I think it's the surprise factor. It's like, oh, this is going really well. No, it's not. Like, that's the thing that jars you is like, I wasn't outside of that. This match was great.
It was a great match.
I enjoyed it.
We're continuing the story because towards the end of this match, as Johnny Gargano is raring up to go through the ropes, Grayson Waller pulls Austin Theory into the line of fire. I was just like, Austin's just getting beat up. He's just getting beat
that's your soap opera stuff. I love that this relationship between the two of them has evolved from, hey, we're both heels, to, hey, we're both egotistical friends, to this is just how brothers treat each other. And now it's going to turn into, this is why brothers don't talk for 10 years at a time, right? Like, that's where we're going, is this sort of, oh, damn. So it's going to get deep. I think I like that it's not just an arbitrary, let's break them apart. I like that this feels like it's going to be a genuine, like, they're divorcing. Like, they're going to have the subtle argument thing underneath the entire time. Great match. They worked really well together. Grayson Waller, I don't know if it's because Johnny's a little smaller or if Grayson's stronger than I anticipated, but he was tossing him around. And of course, they're helping each other. They're professionals.
Right.
But damn, Grayson Waller, I mean, was doing like shot put in there at one point. Like, there is some maneuvering happening here.
I feel that, and this is something that, as someone who covers NXT, that I've always been privy to, it's really nice to see people make these things. It's like, yeah, Grayson doesn't get a lot of talk when it comes to, despite how he's built and his frame and everything, he's actually really, really strong. And
it kind of looks like like if you know anyone who's a swimmer or a surfer, you have that big lean body, but then they go bench 420, and you're like, what the hell? Are you crazy? But they look like a scarecrow, but they're just, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, there's that, and then because it's the same thing. Because Sol Ruka is built, she is a surfer and a gymnast, so that's her. Yeah. But what also has her as an extra benefit of surprising the heck out of you of how strong she really is that she's dating Tyler Bate, which we know is our strong little boy. Just a side note, I love pictures of them because I was like, I want to wear your outfits. Like, I want to wear your.
Look, my favorites. I want to wear your clothes. Yeah, that's fair.
They're very bohemian. I love it. But Austin was not happy when we were ending this match because Grayson's celebrating. Austin's just looking at him again, like the meme that I had from Double or Nothing, where it's just looking at him like, really? So, and you mentioned it before, and we've been kind of talking about it on and off for a couple of weeks. The inevitable fight between these two is going to be fantastic. I'm just afraid that they kind of pulled the trigger too soon to start. They're playing the cards too soon to see, like, teasing the breakup and everything. You're muted, by the way.
I think the only reason it would be going kind of like this is if they're going to milk it till SummerSlam or a little longer, right? or if they're going to do like an apology thing, or it's going to be like, hey, I'm sorry, or hey, let's fix this, or hey, let's work on this. Again, not to invoke another promotion, but kind of like the MJF Adam Cole bromance thing, where we had 6 months of comedy sketches. Not that they're going to do that. Nothing will ever top that. But they're going to try and be like, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, I misunderstood. Or they're going to start gaslighting each other a little bit. And they're going to make it really, really awkward. That's what I was saying. Like, if we're going to do it like this, you better go deep and make it gut-wrenching for us to watch these two guys emotionally hate each other again, which could be cool. But then but who gets the turn, though? That would be the coin flip. Who gets the turn?
Just to briefly talk about it before we get to our next part, I think Austin should turn. And honestly, I think Austin works better. Weird enough, I think he works better as a face because he was a face when he was with Johnny and Candace and Indy part of the way in NXT. And that kind of worked. So I think Austin should become somewhat, he could still be egotistical, but lean into more face and baby face tendencies.
Sure. I've only known him as a heel the 2 years we've been doing SmackDown.
Right.
And I've enjoyed him as a heel. I could kind of see him as face for sure. I don't see Grayson as face because Grayson just does that horrible egotistical mall kid perfectly. Like that's the bad guy from every 80s movie.
Oh,
that's
he's
the
very
bully.
hammy with it, and I love it.
That's the bully from every early 90s movie. That's that privileged kid from every 2000s movie. He's nailed the archetype.
He's literally Steve from Stranger Things without the character development.
Sure.
He was Steve in like season 1 and 2.
Which I went to, that guy was in the undergrad when I was in a master's. We had the same agent. Great guy.
Heck yeah.
He's perfect. Cool dude.
We're going to have a separate podcast where I'm just going to pick the professor's brain. I'm like, who haven't you been around?
All these people I accidentally know. Like, yeah, I kind of know them. I kind of know them too. Yeah, I've had a weird career.
We're going to make that a Patreon exclusive. It's just like,
that'd be funny.
Yes, it'd be fantastic. Part of Tangent, we'd talk about it.
You could do my 2 degrees of John Crosswhite. Here's all who people I've kind of know and I've kind of worked with, and here's what I've heard.
Have a whole map ready to go. Be fantastic.
Really funny. Yep, full Pepe Silva.
Yes. Speaking of going full Pepe Silva here, again, we go back to Cody Rhodes. We go back. This time they up the ante because then Nick Aldis brings security and Cody's is like, really, bro? You're going to really do this? And Nick is like, look, we've already had too many fights tonight. I'm not trying to start another one. So they're here for your protection and to keep you and AJ. And then AJ rolls up in the big SUV. It pops out of the hood like the sunroof. And I'm like, dang, AJ, you look tiny from up there. But they argue the security guards will not let Cody through. And so where I thought it was just like, I'll see you later, Cody does a full 180, turns around, and goes walking to the ring to get to the mic and tell AJ to come to this ring now. I was like, bro, if you were going to call AJ out, you should have just jumped over security and started fighting in the car. Like, what is this?
So that, to me, that would be the soap opera. The soap opera would be, I'm going to jump over the security guards. We're going to fight in the parking lot in the back right now. What made it more of a wrestling show was, I'm going to get the camera to follow me. We're going to do this, and we're going to go to the ring. But I'm going to show you behind the scenes just enough to where you know this is real. There's no cutaway. There's no nothing. So there's that illusion of not quite reality TV, not quite early 90s cops. Like, there's this feeling of like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this right now. I can't get over this, and this might just be too meta for me. They had the huge WWE trailer back there with Ric Flair, Andre the Giant, and Roddy Piper. And all three of them look so disapproving of what they're seeing. They just all have that look of like, and it's like, oh man, they didn't even choose the smiling faces. Like, go get them, kid. They're just these three legends looking down at you like, what are you doing?
2 of the 3 of them are looking down from like the heavens. They're just like, really?
I know.
And if anyone knows Piper in real life, he does not minces his words. He's just like,
no.
Oh God. He's very straightforward. And then Ric Flair is trying not to get behind in for divorce payments, but you know, that's a whole nother thing.
The Ric Flair.
You still got to look at the Woo energy drinks.
Pushing Woo energy drink.
I have yet to find them, and I'm scared to try it.
We can do that as a Patreon. We can try and drink one of those and see what that's actually
Somebody
like.
needs to sign up for DDP yoga.
I mean, apparently DDP yoga changes your life.
It saves lives. Like, while he was still alive, Roddy Piper said that, you know, when he initially had his heart attack, you did DDP yoga and that thing it helped him. I was like, Diamond Style Page is saving lives out here with this DDP yoga.
It's a little culty, but that's yoga in general. But that's now we're in Patreon territory. If you want to hear us talk about cults, join us on Patreon. I enjoyed this.
Just kidding.
Speaking of cults,
the cult of AJ Styles.
The cult of AJ.
I mean,
he does have a little bit of a I'm Jesus on HGH thing going right now. I don't.
Jesus on HGH.
He does kind of look like San Bernardino Jesus, if you know what I mean. He does kind of look like that guy.
I forgot. I get that reference because of where I live. See, only Californians, me, Andrew, and Professor are probably the only three that would get that reference.
Yeah. He's walking out of that. What's that road? Sizzix Road?
Oh my God.
Sorry, for all of those, for SoCal people, you'll get those jokes.
I mean, SoCal Jesus was just as weird of how we got this match set up for Clash at the Castle. Because Cody's like, okay, AJ, I need you to come down right here now. We're going to throw hands. AJ comes out and is the most not intimidating whatsoever in the way that he cuts his promo. He just basically, without saying please, he's like, Cody, you're going to give me this rematch. And Cody's like, bet. So we get a match at Clash at the Castle. However, while AJ agrees, Cody says, this is not just going to be a normal match. I'm going to break you in every single way that I possibly can. So this championship match at Clash of the Castle is set to be an I Quit match, which I'm like, this could go one of two ways.
Please break out Dad's cowbell.
Yep.
Like,
yes.
Please make if we're going there, let's go there. I'm excited. I like this hint of heel Cody. It gets him out of politician Cody, like we've talked about.
Embrace the Homelander, Cody.
Well, because he attacked security. We have not seen that. Even during the peak bloodline stuff, he kind of honored a lot of the security. He went right after the local talent security, which was like, oh, angry Cody. And then AJ Styles does full cannonball and then runs away like the bully kid would do. It got me interested. It's a little arbitrary. It's a little force-fed, sure, but they kind of skirted the soap opera over dramatic and it became business. Nick Aldis is amazing at his job. He fills out a suit. Dude looks like incredible. And the way he played the two of them, like, all right, you want to do this? All right, you want to do this?
We'll do it in the ring.
So good. I'm very
Nick
impressed
Aldis
with
is like
the
a
way
wrestler's GM because he is a wrestler for himself. Also, as a side note, Mickie James is a very lucky woman. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like, I was just like, hi, Nick Aldis. Him and his accent.
I'm sure you're not alone with the fan base. Even the hetero fan base is like, you know what? I don't. There's a lot of criticism on how this happened and where we're going and why we're doing this and what is AJ's last ride. And not that I read the internet or trust the internet because I'm immune to most of the internet. I don't want to say immune, jaded by most of it. I'm not going as heady on this as I think everyone wants to. Everyone's sort of like, okay, does this mean that AJ is going to win it in Scotland? And then AJ's going to like, hey. No, AJ's probably not going to win it. This is AJ's tour. AJ's going to hit all the fan bases throughout the world as best AJ can.
Have baller matches.
Have great matches. Be the ultimate heel. And kind of go out crushing the world. Like AJ, that seems like a pro's pro.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, that makes absolute sense to me.
And AJ's already off to a good start because that match against Cody at Backlash was phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
The phenomenal one, AJ Styles.
To the point where AJ had to mention it in his turn with Cody a week ago.
I don't care what nobody says. That match is ending up on my list at some point at the end of the year when I revisit things. Because that was... That's the first WWE match in a long time where I was like, you know what? I think I might put this on my top 10 list for the year.
I'm going to say my list is up to 12. There's only 2 WWE matches on it, and that is one of them.
Seriously. And we have the rest of the year to go, so that's going to be insane. So we already talked about Bianca and Jade. We're getting a triple threat at Clash of the Castle, which then leads us into our next match, LA Knight versus Carmelo Hayes. LA Knight continues to get that pop. I love Carmelo Hayes. This one's tough for me. I get because, you know, when you get moved over to main roster, you got to like quote unquote pay your dues. But I'm just like, I'm tired of seeing Carmelo Hayes lose, but that's okay. I'm just hoping that down the line there is something for him because Carmelo is fantastic. And I might be a little biased because, again, as one of the 3 people who cover NXT here, Carmelo carried the 2.0 brand for NXT for the last 3 years. He's improved so much. His character's great. The packaging is great. And of course, I'm not as upset that he lost this one. And in fact, this match was a lot of fun.
Yeah. The camera sort of caught them calling spots a few times, which was unfortunate. It's okay if you're calling us, if we catch them calling a spot quickly, but you kind of do a disservice to them. LA Knight right at the top was like, calls 4 spots right in the middle. Bang, 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 bang. And the camera's zooming in on his face. And I was like, come on, guys, cut to camera 2. Carmelo Hayes, I've seen him do some incredible things. I want to say, gosh, going back over 2 years ago when we had our matches of the year, Carmelo Hayes was on everyone's list for a top 3. I can't think of who it was with, but it was like, oh my Lord. Carmelo Hayes is incredible. I love that Carmelo Hayes is here on SmackDown. I thought they worked great together. LA Knight really took care of him and caught him in a few spots here, called some great things. This is me being nitpicky because I use this move when I do my own fight choreography. If you're going to bash someone's head into the table thing, if you make it too safe, if your hands are too far there, you got to trust that guy's going to take care of you and that you can get a little bit closer to them. That's all I'm going to say. This was great. I had no issue watching this. I rewatched it this morning, and I'm kind of watching it now talking to you. I apologize. They work really smooth together because they have that history. They come from a similar background, similar folks that they've been working with. Again, this shows Carmelo Hayes is strong. LA Knight dwarfs him, is at least a whole half size bigger than him, and didn't give up any speed or strength, in my opinion.
Obviously, LA Knight picks up the victory here, which makes a lot of sense because even though it's not until August, we are pitting LA Knight against Logan Paul at SummerSlam. That is what I'm still believing. But as soon as the match was over, LA goes over to commentary, takes one of the microphones, and basically cuts this small little promo and calls out Logan Paul. It's like, if you're not going to come to SmackDown, LA Knight's going to bring the SmackDown to you. Yeah. And I was just like, ooh, are we about to have another
home invasion?
Well, either a home invasion or what I really, really want to see done better now that main roster has a little bit more of a budget than the NXT. I need to see a modern day version of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Booker T fight in a grocery store. Like, I want a whole fight or even fight at Logan's house, or they're just like see each other at somewhere in LA and they just fight each other, just like start whooping on each other. Like LA's like, oh, okay. And this would be the second person that LA has decided to be like, oh, you ain't gonna come to SmackDown. We about to fight in these streets for real. Like,
as long as I love that. Actually, I'm glad. I kind of agree with you. As long as we're doing, Owen Hart, Ken Shamrock in the Lion's Den,
right? Or
as long as, The Rock and Stone Cold on a bridge, like if we're gonna go do the cool shit,
have LA Knight like do a pre-scripted thing where LA Knight like pops up on Logan's podcast and beats him up during the middle of the podcast. That would make...
How'd you get on my podcast? The calls from inside the house, and then he just rocks him in the middle.
Horror movie, by the way.
It's so good. One of the best. I love that. As long as we don't do, I keep invoking the other promotion today. As long as it's not a themed Chainsaw Texas Massacre match or a...
You like that?
I did because I like bad horror movies. So that's why I loved it, guys. It was so terrible. It was fun. That one, or like, let's fight with the concessions match. Like we can heighten this better. I would love to see a Logan Paul, LA Knight fighting in Venice Beach match. And just go up and down, go to I can't think of the name of it. Go to that
on the
gym.
Santa Monica Pier somewhere.
Yeah, go fight through the pier. Get tossed off a pier. Go fight through that bodybuilding gym. Go fight through all those art
Where all
displays.
the bodybuilders are in Ventura.
Yes. Just raise hell doing that. That would be so great.
Have fun with it is what we're basically saying.
Yes. I think the two of them, if they have fun with it, they could do a lot more than if they get serious and broody. I said all that to say this. I think that's why the LA Knight AJ Styles I lost a little interest in, because it was so serious and it was so hyper death match, I hate you stuff. And it's not that I lost interest. I just sort of went, if you really hated him, you murder him. Like, you know what I mean? I'm sort of like, now you have nowhere to go. Whereas I kind of like the two, Logan Paul and LA Knight, needling each other. Go fight in a record store. Like, go fight. There's so many places they could just go.
Go fight at a Hot Topic Spencer's.
Yeah, that's right. Go to Griffith Park and just destroy yourselves. Like, go anywhere you want.
Low-key, I just want WWE to get permission. Like, they fight at a Knott's Berry Farm somewhere.
How great would that be? Just throwing pies at each other, bust through the stunt show as their own fights going on.
They get on a roller coaster. They get on a roller coaster together, start fighting on the roller coaster.
Just vignettes of them fighting their way through famous places throughout the country. Go to
so
Cedar
great.
Rapids and he just clotheslines them while he's on the ride. Pow, whoa! Like there's so many.
There's
jokes,
so many good things. Well, we know that the inevitable destination is probably going to be Logan and LA for that United States Championship. Hopefully we can wait until SummerSlam, but I am excited that we are laying the groundwork now.
I think we'll hint at it. I think there'll be a nod at it during Clash of the Castle. I'm sure. I think.
And then we have Money in the Bank in between that in July. There might be some setup from Money in the Bank. Who knows?
I was gonna say. I wonder. I would venture a guess, not to go full Nostradamus, if we're off the rails, if SmackDown gets off the rails the next few weeks, they might pull the trigger as soon as Money in the Bank just to get everyone interested again.
Right.
I think it's possible.
They blow it up with Dynamite. We'll see what happens. Speaking of things blowing up, this is where I had to critique this, and I feel so bad doing so. But we cut backstage. Nia Jax is there with, finally, it's been a couple weeks, but Miss Tiffany Stratton makes an on-screen appearance again, feeling that things have kind of settled down since, the video came out. I'm like, oops. Anyway, but Tiffany's basically is kind of like brown-nosing up to Nia Jax, be like, you know what? And I sat there watching this, and I was like, I kind of would like to see Nia and Tiffany team up a little bit. I think that would be interesting.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate it either. But mostly this was just Nia staring at Tiffany, just like, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
That's fine.
So
to me, the fun part happens right after that. What happens after that?
What happens after that, Mikey? I'm glad you asked, Professor. So Nia Jax, as Tiffany walks off, Nia Jax turns around and she's walking and gets cut off by Michin. They have a quick exchange. Michin does my favorite thing. Like, this is every 2000s Mean Girl in high school movie ever. Throws a drink on Nia Jax. They begin to brawl. I feel bad for laughing, but I couldn't because of how unscripted and funny this was. Nia Jax falls because she slipped on the liquid that was thrown at her. And she's like falling on ice and everything. Gets up, flips a whole table just because. And then that's where security gets in to separate the two. I was like, this was not how the fight was supposed to go, but I'm glad it went this way because this was great. And
I felt like
Nia Jax took it in stride. The only thing that was missing was her yelling "my hole" again.
It got her. I think that drink ice looked like it hurt though. Like it was not party ice. It's not
just like somewhat ice. This is like full on chunks of ice cubes. This is like more ice than liquid.
The sharp pieces that come out of a freezer ice got her right in the face because the sound of it was like crash. I thought Nia tossed her and kind of missed the table and then slipped, got mad at the table. It was just like the frustration was funny. Right. So I agree with you. It was just sort of like, what are we doing? Again, a really solid one-shot promo too. One bleeding into the next, bleeding into the security part at the end. That was fun.
We had one scene, we went over to another, and then we had the third one with the fight. It was fantastic. This is fun. If SmackDown continues to just be fun, I'm going to be okay with it. And this week, SmackDown was the better of the two main roster shows because me and Senior Lucha Don't talked about it earlier in the week. Oh, no. But there was a lot of Judgment Day activity on Raw, and it almost overstayed its welcome. Also, it was really weird because Liv Morgan was caressing Dominic a lot, and it was weird. It got weird.
I'm kind of keeping up with that triangle. It sounds really odd, but
I'm excited though when Rhea comes back. She's like, "Oh, you trying to steal my man?" Like I need a custody of Dominic ladder match. That is what we need to get to. For the second time in his life, Dominic will be the prize in a ladder match.
Ave Maria. Oh, that's hysterical.
Or Dominic Mysterio on a pole match. It's just enough for me to be fantastic, but all right.
Is it like a domestic partnership match? Is that what this is?
There should be.
Sort of like we have to, whoever can get this signed at the right moment.
His wife actually comes into the picture. Buddy Matthews pushes Dominic because he's creeping on his woman. Like, just
my God.
Not the forbidden door, but the prohibiting portal, as we called it.
So that's soap opera land.
Yes.
That's the soap opera stuff.
That'd be fun, but all right. I want to take it down a couple of notches because I actually want to give this next segment a lot of time because this was the best promo of the whole night. Bailey did a good job of just being the person to be the recipient in this scene, but Bailey comes out. She talks for a little bit, setting up her match against, Piper for the title at Clash at the Castle. And she basically says that she respects Piper. If Piper had asked, she would have done so, which then prompts Chelsea and Piper to come out. Chelsea gets out a sentence before Piper takes the mic, and then she ran the rest of this segment. This is the Piper Niven that I fell in love with in NXT UK. This was an awesome promo. I loved it so much.
Oh, that was great. And it skirted soap opera. It was wrestling. It was me calling you out. It was for pride and country. And
she even called out the audience too. It's just like everyone says, what? I was like, yes.
Yeah. Inbred said what? Boom. Like, oh, you called the Kentucky audience inbred, did you?
She took a page out of Drew McIntyre's book. It was fantastic. I know she's not winning, but like, damn, I was like, this is how you make Piper feel important before Clash at the Castle.
Yes, I agree. And I think it's sort of the build you wanted and needed. I'm very interested to see what happens at Glasgow next Friday and how they continue that for sure. This was great. I thought it ran a little long, but I was okay sitting in it. The energy never dropped, but it was a blast. I was like, okay, this is where we're going. I think you're right, though. Speaking of Bailey, has gotten a lot better on the mic over time. All the damage control stuff, she got better at that, more confident in that, I feel. When she just has to listen and respond, beautiful in the moment, speaks with her heart, speaks her truth. If you give her too much script, I think she gets a little bogged down and stuck a little.
Yeah.
That's just me as acting teacher.
The other person I want to give kudos to, because I think they played it perfectly, just being the hype person without saying anything, was Chelsea. Chelsea did a good job of playing. She just made the faces the entire. I was like, Chelsea Green is so good. I love her so much. But Piper's promo was probably my favorite thing of this whole entire show. It's just truth. Like, I'm happy that she mentioned the Mae Young Classic because WWE during the previous regime tried to downplay the importance of that, which was not cool. Because we had two of those, and it introduced us to pretty much a lot of the women that are currently still on the roster right now because they were on the independents and other places around the world that got brought into there. And then she even gave us her history. She was champion in Europe, the UK, and lest we forget, she was also champion in Japan too. Yeah.
I mean, speak your truth. Not to give you all the cliches, but like, I have a resume. Here it is. You called me Dewdrop for a year. Eat shit.
She came to the main roster, lest we forget, partnered with Eva Marie. Eva Marie, let me remind you, ladies and gents and non-binary folks of the internet, like, that was the thing. I love the resume, but my favorite line that Piper said is like, I hope all that love and respect you have to me will cushion you when you're looking up at the lights as I'm holding your title above you. I was just like,
good line.
Yes.
Very good line. I respect it. I went and rewatched this because the crowd was not into this.
I was mad at the crowd. I was like, y'all suck.
So I watched this promo a lot. I actually was able to watch a live Smackdown. I watched it live and was like, she's lighting them up. Crowd is like dead. They're not even booing. They're just sort of meh. And I don't want to. I don't want to judge parts of the country. I don't want to jump on anybody. This isn't quite when AEW went to Birmingham. This isn't quite where over the summer.
Forget Birmingham. When AEW went to Savannah, Georgia, that was
Savannah. I was just gonna say, wasn't there somewhere? There was somewhere in Georgia. There was a few out in Georgia where it was like, oh, woof. There was someplace Smackdown went. I want to say it was
one of the places in Canada too, with all the things that came out from there as well.
Yeah, there's a few, and I forget them because they're not important. But there's places that they've gone where the crowd is just like, we don't want it. Give me Roman. It's like, okay, well, there's a lot more here. Down. So I watched this the second time. I was like, no, she's on her. Like, she's fired up. She's doing everything she can. And, so I'm very much intrigued.
I am too. And I think to your point about the crowd, not that this is going to give them a free pass because, I'm not saying that everyone should be on the up and up on everyone on the roster, but I was just like, you got to do your research a little bit. But I also feel that the investment into Piper Niven, for those who don't know her from NXT UK or from her other accolades around the world, this is kind of a good example of what happens when you are not given proper TV time or when you are being pushed as a joke. 'Cause
Sure.
remember, last 5 years under the previous regime, she was treated as a joke and she was booked as a joke and then booked
Oh
as
yeah.
an enforcer. And now we can actually see that no, this is the Piper Niven that she was in NXT UK all those years ago when it was still
Right.
around. So not to excuse the
Right.
crowd, but y'all gotta do your
Yeah.
research too. Come on, it's both sides here.
I agree. And I hope that, and I don't want to rag on this too long because we got to talk about this next one because I'm excited to talk about it. There's this almost caste system of the old regime that I think Triple H is trying to chip away at very slowly, but is still chipping away at it. And I speaking to it the way Piper did. Some of these other promos we've had over the last few weeks too, where it's sort of like, hey, I'm this, hey, I'm that, hey, I come from here, calling it out some. That does not excuse any of the other horrible stuff that's behind the scenes, which is why it's hard to even review NXT, and we've talked about that here. It shows me that there's almost two directions, and both have to be true. That we are honoring these folks, we're pushing them a certain way, and we're giving them the shot, but we are also covering up for the mistakes of the last 40 years. Both have to be true. Piper. I'm excited for Piper in Scotland.
I think that match is going to be really, really good. Bailey's great. Yeah. Piper's awesome. Like, I can't wait. Excuse me, I just sneezed because I think Logan. Okay? I think somebody's talking about me.
You sneezed so hard it glitched the camera.
Yeah, I sneezed so hard it glitched the camera a little bit. But I'm sneezing because I feel that somebody's talking about me. But the same way that Logan Paul was talking about LA Knight in this next segment, because we got this pre-tape promo. Love him or hate him, this was fantastic. I was just like, Logan Paul is absurd, and I'm kind of here for it.
He's so good at video work because he's been doing it for 10, 15 years, right? Like, he knows angles and cameras and all that stuff. He gives me an existential crisis in a way, because part of me is like, you do nothing. The whole time you were coming up, I watched you as some talentless hack doing horrible things with your brother, because I was on Vine. And I know I've said that here.
Professor and I remember the Vine days. It was me and Professor are old enough. We are that old.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's always going to be like, I cannot get over you being a horrible 16, 17-year-old. I cannot. However, damned I don't have respect for the promos and the work that he's putting in. I do want to see Tyson knock out his brother. But I do appreciate what he's doing for pro wrestling and putting it out there. His podcast sounds great. I have not humbled myself enough to listen to it, even though everyone's saying that I should. But there's a part of me that's still ornery enough to be like, no. So I'm trying.
Well, before
he cuts a promo here that gets me interested. I gotta respect that.
Well, and me and Andrew had this conversation prior to this too, because we would have offline conversations and we would text each other about NXT too, because right now NXT is running into the same problem some of the other companies are, where we just had a big pay-per-view, so now we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do to get to the next one, because even though the build to Stand and Deliver was hit or miss, the pay-per-view itself was amazing. And
sure,
you were there watching it with us too, so it was just like, it was fantastic. But once Stand and Deliver was over, the last month or so has been, and of course, you mentioned it before, we're not just with NXT, but the main rosters for SmackDown and Raw. Like, there's a whole bunch of other stuff happening in the background with certain allegations and lawsuits happening, and then contracts are coming up. Like,
I know, and then I don't want to go full tangent, but there's a lot of talking videos out today about folks leaving and what they're gonna do, and oh my god.
Well, I mean, we could talk about it because it's related, but like Chad Gable's contract ended on Friday, so I'm interested to see what happens at Clash of the Castle and if he's going to stay. Becky Lynch is technically a free agent because her contract was up at the beginning. Now, if she goes to other companies, I would be like, that's be nuts. But also, I'm like, I'm not mad at it because she's been here for almost 8-9 years, and go explore the world. Like, and then come back if you want to. Ricochet has already, according to PW Insider, Fightful is still trying to confirm it, so I'm going to say allegedly, he has told WWE he's not going to re-sign once his contract's up in the summer. And lots of people
did say it.
Yeah, so that's allegedly. I need Fightful and some other credible sources to confirm it. But there's a lot of contracts coming up, and whether or not like Angel Garza and Humberto's contracts are, there's a lot of people whose contracts are coming up and figuring if they're going to re-sign. I know, especially with Ricochet, a lot of people want him to go to AEW because they want that rematch between him and Will Ospreay, which would kill. But the other thing too is that since Ricochet is, in a relationship with Samantha, the ring announcer for Raw too, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. But again, it goes back to what we were talking about. Triple H is chipping away at everything that happened the last 40 years and trying to get people to come back, especially all these people who were treated wrong under the previous regime. Lest you forget, remember Chad Gable was Shorty G for a little bit.
Yeah.
But
and good news, bad news, and we'll talk this to death because now we're coming up on the review is longer than the episode. You can't catch everyone.
No. So
you can't. And that's heartbreaking and that sucks. But if you have the roster's not bloated like other companies, but you have a lot of talent here that you do and don't use. You got some folks with names that are just kind of sitting there. Someone like Ricochet, who's been misused, in my opinion, for years. And then you give him some sort of speed title only on Twitter thing.
It's weird.
What a slap in the face to a guy like that, who arguably has created one of your top 3 viral moments of the last 5 years doing that thing with Logan Paul. Like,
yeah, to bring it full circle.
So, yeah, right, to come all the way back. Without that moment, I don't know if Logan Paul hits as hard and as fast as he did.
Right.
Like what they built for that match. It's disturbing that they would let him go. However, you look at all the friends he's made in the past and being in this business so long. Ospreay's tweeting about it. People are making commentaries about it.
Swerve talks about it.
So I was going to say, there's the idea of him and Swerve. Oh my God, him and Swerve. The idea of him and Okada. The idea of him with any of the Lucha Brothers. Like,
well, not just in AEW too. Ricochet versus Mustafa Ali would be a baller match. Like versus Josh Alexander versus like even wherever Ricochet decides to go, I want what's best for him. Logan Paul does not want the best for LA Knight, but
no.
As bad as it is me to say, I'm kind of looking forward to when this implodes and they fight. Like, I'm actually digging the slow build that we got to this. So now we get to our main event. Once again, pulling an Andrew. Kevin Owens and the Street Profits make their entrance first. We cut backstage where Piper and Naomi are going to have a match next Friday, and Blair Davenport's just watching in the background, like way in the background.
Bloodline, you know who I am? I'm Blair Davenport. Great.
Oh, Blair.
Wait over there.
Yeah, Blair's going to destroy everybody. It's going to be fantastic. But
yeah,
Bloodline make their entrance. This is your standard Bloodline 6-man tag team match. This was a really fun match. Though I will say the best thing that happened was what ended the show, because this is how you make... Because for weeks, people have been talking about the Bloodline is just a bunch of thugs. It's like, have we really seen it though? And then they destroyed Kevin Owens and the Street Profits, and Kevin Owens went through a table. I'm like, thank you. This is what I needed to see. Now I've seen it. I was like, okay, now I believe you.
Street Profits were on fire.
Oh, so good.
Amazing. We could talk about this off air because I don't want to take up too much time. I don't know when they went from Suit Profits back to Street Profits. So part of me is like, your Bobby Lashley's gone and this happened, that. Oh, so we're back. You're back. Where are the cups? Come on. Bring the cups back. Bring the cups back. A great match. This was fun. It's sort of two groups that I would not... Kevin Owens, Street Profits. Yeah. Street Fighters. Sure. Wild asses. Yeah. But part of me is like, are you friends? Really? Cool. And then they work great together. Like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing that was really exciting to me. I was like, they have really good chemistry together as a trio. Like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. There's same colors, same feel, same vibe, if you will. Yeah, I enjoyed this. This is one of the few Smackdowns in a long time. Well, last week kind of. Where it's like, oh, we ended on the highest of high notes. We didn't have a high note and then the weird denouement question mark at the end. It was like, here's a big moment. Pop. it's over. Like, oh,
It wasn't just flopping in the wind at the end. Like
exactly right. They put it back in and zipped it.
yes.
This is clean. Yeah, it's sort of like, okay, you at the beginning, you had a middle, you had an end. You didn't have 3 endings. Oh, I could have watched this longer. It looked like they were up against it. They got just under 10 minutes. It looks like. I'm saying, I said this last week. I'm saying it again. SmackDown, you made me want to watch. You made me want to tune in next week,
Right.
which is the goal.
And I'm mad because we're not gonna have a review next week because it makes no sense to review the Go Home SmackDown before
Nope.
the paper. But you know what? We could talk a little bit about that SmackDown before we get into the review for Clash at the Castle on Monday.
We'll bring it up if it's worth talking about. Now
Yeah,
that we've said
sure.
that,
Yeah.
the go home shows are always like, oh crap.
It's like, okay, well, maybe not. But we have reached the end of this. Paul Heyman is again looking devastated as the Bloodline are looking over to Kevin Owens' like mangled corpse. And that's how SmackDown goes off the air. So I'll go first with my empanada rating. I'm gonna give this an 8.5 out of 10. Like I really enjoyed this SmackDown, and like the professor, I actually watched this one live. At first, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just put it on as I'm editing, and then as soon as it started, I had to stop editing for the 2 hours the show was on and watch it the whole way through. I was like, wow, SmackDown. I was like, we're slowly getting back to why I was like, I'm excited to cover this because obviously I love the crew that reviews this, but this was a good show. The wrestling was really good. We leaned more into the wrestling this week, where last week was just more soap opera storytelling, which I also love because I'm messy. But this was fun This was just fun. And I feel that that's what SmackDown's been missing for the last couple months is it's like, let's just have fun and utilize the people properly. Again, Piper's promo was amazing. I was like, okay, SmackDown, if this is the direction we're going for the rest of the summer, you have my attention.
Yeah, I think it goes soap opera to me when we're not playing to the performers and the wrestlers' strengths. Now you're forcing them out of... It's okay to be forced out of your comfort zone, but if you're forcing the storyline and the product itself and trying to shoehorn something, it gets very soap opera-y. And we can talk about that and what I mean by that later on. I agree with you. I went 8.5, 8.8, coming up on 9, not so much, because I feel like you need to book more women. A little bit more representation here and there. All the promos were great. The backstage segments worked. You got me to like things and people I don't like. I wish a little bit of the Cody Rhodes AJ Styles was a little cleaner at the top, but that's just me being kind of nitpicky because that's what we do. All the matches were fun. Like normally we talk at length when matches when we have this problem, that problem. It's like, no, that's let the I say this in my classes, I say this when I direct. Let the actors act. I was like, yeah, let the wrestlers go. Do what they do. Let them off the chain. Cause all your trouble. They didn't try to do too much. They played to all their strengths. Strange crowd. You would not think if this is an 8.5, 8.8, 8.9 based on the crowd. There was a lot of... It was very... What's the word? Not even muted. Just sort of, yeah, we got tickets.
They were just happy. Literally, they were just happy to be there. Like it was that.
Just happy to be there. Like, who are you? Okay, great. I wonder if, and we kind of talked about this. I wonder if there was a lot of like, wait, who is that? Wait, can you tell me about that? Like people talking about who's on this sort of thing that like you could get. This was great. I hope we're going towards Clash at the Castle, and maybe you string enough of these together, SummerSlam doesn't fall on its head like it did last year.
I purged that from my memory.
Oh, it happened.
It happened.
We were there.
Well, also, I think what also didn't help is that we were still underneath the former regime last year's SummerSlam, too. So hopefully, we'll see what a true Triple H, like, free of interference. Because last year, Triple H was kind of in charge, but there was interference. Hopefully, we'll see what a Triple H fully in charge of SummerSlam looks like. But before we get there, we got Clash at the Castle this upcoming week. So go and check out our predictions video for that, as me and Professor make some really predictions and has some hot takes, because there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about that are very interesting. But for myself and the Professor, Minnie, who could not be here, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod boys, that is going to be it for us here at the Friday Night Faction Review. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic. More importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you later, but until then, Adios and sayonara.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.